This is the Tree of Life, Season 18, Chapter 4. In this episode, we will be talking about how infinite recursion is an occlusion within the flow of consciousnesses from vessel to vessel during substitution events. In Season 18, Chapter 1, we talked about how longer strings of parallel digital and analog structures are held together by negational valence as between those structures. We also talked about how digital dominance, permitting the flow of consciousnesses from one vessel to another, is associated with atomization, which reflects affirmational valence. We also saw in a much earlier episode that infinite recursion is prevented by displacement mirroring, that is, the movement of an impulse subject to negation from one structure member to another becoming affirmational. Digital structures maintain irregular phase shifts, whereas analog structures are contextual and therefore more regular in their phase shifts. When the same impulse is subject to both a parallel digital and analog structure, the impact can be the extension of the phase associated with that impulse within the analog structure. Likewise, the linking of parallel digital and analog structures within strings, which include substitutionary relationships between specific impulses within these structures, can delay these phase shifts further down the line through negational valence. All of this being said, infinite recursion is associated more with an internal positional or structural rigidity caused by the linking of a string of structures in parallel. This is shown by the fact that what terminates infinite recursion is the shifting of the impulse to an affirmational form within the structure. Thus, it is the linking of one structure member to a string through negational valence which prevents the phase flip. And it is the elimination of that negational valence through affirmation of the negated impulse by a second structure member which eliminates the occlusion. Since we saw that the flow of consciousnesses from vessel to vessel requires digital dominance, and digital dominance is linked to atomization, structures where one or more member is linked to a string can impair the flow of consciousness from vessel to vessel. Thus, displacement mirroring bypasses this effect temporarily by eliminating the negational valence with respect to the string. Since analog structures are contextual, this shifting of an impulse to affirmation bypasses the vessel. And since they are contextual and subject to transformation to digital forms, these structures are gradually eliminated with time anyway. Since the attention fixed on some object in negation converts an analog structure to a digital one, and the phase associated with digital structures are irregular, they can then elongate the phase corresponding to linked analog structures within strings. That's the end of the podcast for today.